Unchurned is presented by UpdateAI.
Tanya Earles, SVP of Customer Success at Tibra, which is an amalgamation of a couple of companies. Tanya leads 470 people across 16 functions in post-sales.
The restructuring of me moving out is we're moving customer success under our CRO. I think a lot of companies are doing that. But I have a take on that.
If I start working on an account right now that's at risk, it'll be 6 months before I maybe see the fruits of that labor. Maybe.
Yeah.
And it might not even manifest in revenue growth. It might manifest in like a logo staying.
Chrissy, should we wait for you to finish the popcorn and seltzer water?
We don't have that much time. This is a pretty I came with a full bowl because I was like, listen, I think it's
We're
gonna be
lucky
interesting.
she's here.
I was gonna eat a little snack. I'm ready for the show.
Do you want to just sit on the sidelines and just put your
No,
feet up and you got the
what, are you trying to
popcorn and you're
bench
ready?
me? I'm your A player.
No,
are you kidding me?
You are
Well, I don't know. The last couple weeks, Christy, we've been doing
John,
fine without
relax.
you for the last couple weeks.
Wow, fine.
Yeah, John's coming for you.
Fine.
I said
Wow.
fine. I didn't say amazing. I didn't say
Okay,
fantastic.
all right.
I said
yeah,
fine.
No, okay, fine.
Fine
is fine.
Are we still talking about Posh Spice?
I mean, we could be. I just saw the new David Beckham cologne ads for the holiday, and I was like, damn, that man just gets better and better looking. Like, how is it such that these men that are aging,
fair.
right? The men in their 40s to 50s right now, these famous celebrities, I'm like, every day, I'm like looking at them different. Like, it's a different.
We've
it's
got
a
a
different kind of
skincare
hot.
routine. We've got a.
I mean,
it's about the
clearly
under
I
eye
need to
care.
Fix mine. I know. Lotions and potions. All
Welcome,
day.
everybody.
What are we doing here, Josh?
This episode of CS and BS and BS and
Late night.
Unchurned podcast presented by UpdateAI. I'm Josh Schachter, founder and CEO of UpdateAI. We have with me
John Johnson, Principal
John
CSM
Johnson.
Manager at User Testing. I'm just thrilled to be here with everybody.
Can you just say that you're just the principal of customer success and just
I'm
leave
the
it at
principal.
that? Because I think that
Welcome
would
to
be...
the principal's office.
Ooh, that's a show.
Ooh.
Okay,
I know.
my turn,
I'm
John.
working on it.
No, stop. My turn. Okay, very good. Anyway, Chrissy Felteruso, Chief Customer Officer at Client Success. We are a customer success management solution, helping our customers manage from new to renew. Spent the past 12 years in customer success, building, scaling, and transforming customer success teams in B2B hyper-growth companies.
Tanya Earles, SVP of Customer Success at Tibra, which is an amalgamation of a couple of companies. You can tell us a little bit more about that. And a little birdie told me that Tanya is leaving Tibra. Can we talk about that, Tanya? Do we know? Do others know?
We can, but I can't say where yet.
That's fine. I heard it was Gainsight, but that's okay. We don't have to. You can either confirm or deny that on this call.
Yeah.
Is it really?
So
Are you?
No.
I am denying that.
Thank
but
you.
Yes, I have transitioned out of, and it's actually Tebra. Although there's a lot of customers that call it Tibra, Josh. And
So this is like Tiva and Teva. It has the same vibe, right? We don't know what we're actually saying.
It totally
Tiva,
has
Teva.
the same vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was there 4.5 years, and I am hopefully we'll be able to announce my new journey here shortly, but not quite yet. So.
Wonderful. And tell us about Tebra, because you guys were a couple companies, came together, had some acquisition.
We were.
Stuff going on.
Legacy Carryout, EMR, $100 million EMR business. And then we merged with a company called Patient Pop, which was also $100 million. So pretty much equal in size, both in people and in revenue. And that was back in November of 2021. And we just expanded, basically went from an EMR and added on a digital growth platform with RICP being basically small practice providers.
Love it.
Tanya, what's an EMR?
Yeah, so think of it like electronic medical record. So we are the system or the platform for doctors to take clinical notes, submit billing claims to payers for insurance, patient engagement, which is where
what does the security on a platform like that look like?
What does the security on the platform look like? Oh, it's tight.
Yeah,
it's tight. There's a lot of security that has to happen, so we don't have any, HIPAA violations or whatnot. But yeah,
Tanya leads 470 people across 16 functions in post sales. That really impresses me. Yeah. So this podcast is all about folks that are in post-sales CS functions, finding role models that serve as aspirations, inspirations. I think aspiration would be if you're joking, right? Inspiration to people who want to grow their careers. And I mean, that's inspirational to me, is a female leader in a really impressive sector, leading 500 people. I don't even know where to start with that. But I don't know, Tanya, what makes the most sense? Should we talk about?
Well, I got a question, Josh.
Go ahead.
know where
Help
to
me, spare
start.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, hi, Tanya.
Well, hello. How are you today?
I'm
On
so
this fine
good.
evening of yours.
Oh, look, I'm so happy to be here. I really am.
I bet.
And I appreciate the flexibility in scheduling. So, okay, but really, for real talk here. One of the things that stood out to me is, you haven't always been in CS. There was something that popped out when I was kind of going through the prep of what we do. But you have always had a focus on the customer. And the way that you wrote this kind of in some of our prep documents, or it was presented to me, is, it may not have always been customer success, but you as an individual have always been focused on the customer. I would love to hear, okay, first off, but I want to know how you keep the customer at the center when you're 4 or 5 levels away from the customer, and what your thought process around and has been around bringing the customer into these very complex, very large scale organizations.
Yeah. So I call it Ivory Tower syndrome is a thing. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Ivory Tower syndrome. Yeah, that's a thing. That's when you get so big that all your C-suite and all your corporate executives get so far removed from the customer. We call Ivory Tower syndrome, right? So like you're making decisions because you're sitting in your ivory tower, right? And you're not so connected. So it is a thing at some companies. And I think even Chrissy, you posted, what was it, like a week ago or something? You posted something like, if you're not talking to your customers, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because I talk to leaders all the time when they're like, I'm like, how often do you speak to your customers? And they're like, oh, maybe a couple meetings a week. And I'm like, that aren't escalations. And then all of a sudden that number drops to like 0.
Yep, 100%. Well, and the hard part too, and I will say this, like the higher up you go, like the hard part is depending on how solid your product is, right, and your processes and your platform, how much of your time is being spent talking on escalations and not actually on customer advisory boards and product advisory boards, right? So anyways, to get back to answer your question, I think there's a couple things. 1, customer advisory boards. They should be on there. 2, like for me, every customer that onboarded, I would send a welcome letter personally from me, and they had direct access to me so they could reach out to me. And then I would try to reach out to them post onboarding and said, hey, I would love to hear about your experience. Would you mind setting up some time with me? Some would bite, some wouldn't, right?
Just to clarify, you program sequences that sent out letters to customers.
Yeah. Well, so at Tebra, we would launch anywhere around 350 customers a month. And so as they launched or as they graduated, that letter would go out. Yeah. And not every customer, obviously, like we had high open rates, but not every customer would reach out and say, hey, let's have a talk. And then the second one is your strat accounts, right? Your enterprise accounts. You need to have a relationship with. You should be talking with all of them, especially. So I think those are probably the fundamental, just for like me as a leader. But my ultimate favorite, is getting some sort of in-app. I don't care if it's like an NPS tool or a thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't care how you measure it, but you need to figure out if your customers love or hate a certain part of your workflow or certain parts of your product. And if it is SaaS, right? Like we put ours in app, we got over, I think in the first month and a half, 15,000 responses.
What'd you guys use? Do you know what tool you use for that?
Yeah, we used In Moment.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Question though.
Great. And it's been great. You know what the best part about those tools are? It's then you're not relying on customer success to deliver the messaging to the broader org. So what we did is we trained every department head. So product, engineering, they all had to choose someone to be on our Tiger team, on our council, on our customer internal council, and they had to get to know the data and they had to use it to make their decisions. It wasn't like, oh, let me get with customer success and see what they say that we need to do about our product or why customers are turning.
So what were the data points? So you had you had in-app surveying, and I assume was it an NPS or was it like a thumbs up, thumbs
It
down?
was just the one question NPS, and we
Okay.
would put some rules around it, right? Based on like if they just responded, then they couldn't respond for their 90 days, whatever
Sure.
it might be.
What
so
other
that we
data
weren't
points were there?
Surveying them. That was it.
Oh.
It was, would you recommend us? Yes or no? And what we did is we would put it under certain parts, certain sections of the workflow. So clinical had theirs, billing had theirs. And then depending on what they responded, there was always like a follow-up question where then we would reach out and say, hey, are you open to hearing about more?
And that was, I mean, this really interests me because I think like cross-functional alignment that CS really, of the voice of the customer, CS should be at the heart of and the center of. And a lot of times in an organization, it gets lost. So I love the fact that you're putting together a tiger team. So you guys would convene, sorry, did you say monthly to look at the data?
Yeah, they would meet monthly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You were not on this tiger team.
So no, I was on the tiger team on the senior council, but there is that we call it L2s, right? So once you're 1,000 people,
you have levels tiger teams.
Yes, we had levels of.
You were really in an ivory tower. Okay, like literally, your office was made out of ivory. Okay, yeah. This is legit. Like, old school healthcare ivory tower stuff. Okay, I got it.
Well, listen, when you got 150,000 customers, you got to be on it, right?
You do.
So that team, the L2 team, so it was VPs at the VP level, they would be in it, creating it, and then they would have to come to our executive teams, and we would all go through the data, talk about the data, what should be on the roadmap, what shouldn't be, why are customers.
So was it entirely based on that data point of the survey information at different parts of the product and through different segments? What other types of inputs were there?
Yeah, so there was customer satisfaction scores, right? So CSAT, your typical, like at the end of every interaction with whichever. There was also product usage and adoption. There, we were starting to integrate some full story stuff, and then we had also launched provider health scorecard through Gainsight. So it wasn't adoption; it was outcomes based, which is where I'm a really big believer. I know you guys are too. Which is the customer actually seeing the outcomes that they expect, and then it also had like your typical like tickets, how many calls, stuff like that. So all of that would be aggregated into like a readout to say which of our customers are loving us, hating us, which part. Like there was a lot of really great data that came out in our clinical workflows that we ended up switching a partner vendor. So yeah.
Tanya, I gotta ask. So we get asked this all the time.
Wait, John started talking first, but just because you talked louder, you get to go?
I literally did it. I was moving first. Either there's a delay. I was going first. I waited for her to complete
Christy,
her sentence.
Josh, I hand you the speaking stick.
Thank you, John. You can have it back. So you both asked a question, and I didn't ask a question yet. And I have a very important question, and now Josh, you're gonna make me forget it. Ugh. Anyway, Tanya. I love the formulaic approach you're taking here. When you're capturing customer goals and outcomes for the volume of customers that you are, how are you doing that? How are you ensuring that they are good, that they are measurable, that they are SMART goals? How are you keeping track of them as they change? Like, who is responsible for owning that and validating that that's correct? So much so that you feel confident in putting that into a scored mechanism that you're using to drive the business.
Yeah, that's a good question, Christine. In fact, I would say it's forever evolving, right? Like, so you think you create it on what you think is best. You get your customer advisory board to give you input, right? Like one of the biggest, I think that was most challenging for us was your leading indicators for churn, right? Sure. Okay. You had this many tickets, you created this many, negative NPS. So we're assuming you're probably going to churn, but you'd find sometimes those customers would never churn. So I would say this. Number one, it's ever evolving. Two, I think as you scale. So on my team, one of my leaders was our VP of Ops and Strategy and Technology Enablement. So she would oversee all of the technology enablement, whether it was the IVR, the Salesforce, or Gainsight, right? And so part of her role was to organize and create all of that with product and right with all of the different functional leaders. And especially with your CSM, right? Your client leadership, right? They need to be at the table with that product. And I think your CSMs are the most important. And then to answer your question, Chrissy, it's ever evolving. You got to keep looking at the data. Is it true? Is it not true? Are those customers that you think are going to churn? Are they churning? Are they not churning? Oh, by the way, the ones that were really happy, they're not churning now because we turned it around because we created a 360 loop, right? Where if they gave us a thumbs down, we called them immediately. We fixed it. Now we're noticing that they're not churning. So I would just tell you I don't know that there is ever an end game, but what I would say, like in our world, for example, like one of the cleanest that's easiest to explain is, so you're a doctor and you're going to submit, let's just say $100,000 in claims to a payer. Well, how much of that gets denied on the first pass? That is a customer outcome, right? You're using my product, so adoption doesn't matter. You have to use my product to submit the claim. So, right, adoption, but how well are you doing it? How much of that money, which is revenue in your pocket, are you actually getting back? That is the difference. And then that's where the CSMs need to lean in and start saying, okay, did you get a new biller? Do you have somebody new in the system that we need to train that should go through Tebra University, stuff like that? So some are easier, right? Like one and done, we know they're the right things. And then others, they're just continuously evolving.
It's so nice to have like data that you can measure to say like, and to go back to your customer and quantify the value.
Right?
I'm envious of the companies that can easily do that. So I miss marketing where I'm like, no, look, we did this thing and it did that thing and it did that thing. And then look, all the monies.
Right?
I miss that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, and even then, things change. By the time you create that shit, sometimes it's already antiquated and somebody else is.
I know, but I want to be able to at least create the shit. I want to stop it, Josh. I want to. He's such a liar. Tanya, please do not listen to him. But like even creating it until it gets stale, I don't even care. I just want to be able to have it. So the fact that you can do it, I think is awesome. John, I think that you're on the edge of your seat waiting to ask a really thoughtful question. So
I will say that I'm still living in the moment after breath work today. So I'm very relaxed and calm. Thank you, Josh. I'm leaning back comfortably in my seat, waiting patiently. But one of the things that I wanted to ask,
I think John, sorry, time out. You need to that like we need some context for that. This is also an advertisement, but tell them about the breathwork
meditation or something. Exercises so you learned
every Monday for the next 6 weeks, I believe. 6, Josh. We did 2.
So indefinite.
Indefinite. Okay.
Wait, also, why are you guys doing this without me? Why wasn't I invited?
You are invited.
Because my emails go to your spam.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, can I please explain what this is, Christy? We have 25 minutes left. So Josh has launched this initiative addressing a lot of stuff, right? So we live in a world that's overworked. We live in an industry that is just fucking crazy right now, right? And I think all of us are juggling a ton of different things. So Josh, through a partnership with an incredible woman, Soul Key, runs a 30-minute breathwork session every Monday. It's virtual. I actually did it with my 18-year-old son this afternoon. It was really fun. He fell asleep during, but I did not.
That's awesome.
But I've enjoyed it. It's actually something that my therapist and my doctors have been like, you got to do this thing, right? So, kudos to Josh. But every Monday, 2:30 Eastern, there's a link. We'll post it in the show notes. But join us. It's been so much fun. And, there's probably 10 or 15 folks who join us every week. And we just kind of zen out for a little bit. And it's pretty great just to kind of block the brain off. Anyways, and spiel there. The question that I have for you, we've talked to a lot of like early stage folks. We've talked to a lot of people that are coming in not with 150,000 customers or 500 people underneath them, right? So you live in a world, we talked about the Ivory Tower a little bit, but you live in a little bit of a bigger world. You see things a little bit farther than an early stage founder like Josh. Where do you see customer success going? Like what is the maturity that you're seeing? How is the landscape shifting? Give me kind of like your perspective. You're looking into a new role too, right? So I do want to hear some about the successes that you've had in the past, but as you're looking forward, where do you see what you know and what you need to learn?
Well, I think you guys are going to find there's a lot of this debate on LinkedIn that I'm going to talk about. And I bet you all have an opinion. And I would
This podcast was started because of shitty takes on LinkedIn. So
okay, well, good. I bet I would love to hear your opinion on this. But so a couple things. So part of the restructuring of me moving out is we're moving customer success under our CRO. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of companies are doing that.
Yep.
But I have a take on that. I posted, I don't know, there's this belief out there, and I don't know where it comes from, that if you do customer success, you can't do new logo sales, but new logo sales can do customer success. So I think that's a debate.
Yeah.
And I think that's bullshit, because I think once, like the new logo sale, first off, your leads are getting qualified sometimes 2 or 3 times before you even get it. You have a demo. They're already shopping, right? Think of tires. They're already shopping for tires. So they're in the market. Not always, right? Like AI and stuff like that's a little different, but in our world. And so I actually think there's a couple of things I will answer to that. I think companies are doing one of 2 things. They are shifting customer success under revenue. And that concerns me a little bit, because then I think, and I've seen it happen, your customer success teams now become just base monetization.
Yeah.
And they're cold calling, right, customers instead of driving growth and expansion through relationships. I've seen it happen in other companies. And so for me personally, that's not my preferred model.
What is, like, when you say you've seen it happen, like what's the first signal that it's happening? How does that manifest itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what used to be your CSMs that have a portfolio book of business, right? And I'm supposed to build relationships. I keep up to date on you. I care about your success. Maybe I'm just checking in. It depends, right? Are you 700 customers to 1? Or are you 30 to 1, right? So I think depending on the size of your company, it's different. But to me, how I've seen it manifest is now I no longer care about the relationship. Here's a call list. And you're going to call our current base, and you're just going to try to sell some sort of expansion bolt-on or add-on offer. And the relationship is kind of out the door. And then your older, if there's still a CSM present, they now become support.
Yeah.
Because you've created a base sales team, right? And so that's how I've seen it manifest itself, personally. And that's not the way I would do it if I was CEO for a day, but yeah, that's how I've seen it.
So I agree with you. I do. I think your take is valid. And I remember, I think we were all, except for Josh, a part of orgs when CS used to always report to CRO. We were revenue. We were part of the revenue team, right? When I first started, we didn't have CCOs. We barely had a VP of CS, right? It was just like whatever. And I actually really celebrated when we moved CS under product and then moved CS under CC, or whatever we're calling it these days.
Yeah.
And I really loved product, but the thing that I noticed, and I've used this analogy before, is it really felt like we went, from offense to defense, where as soon as you take your eyes off the revenue that CSMs are driving, you start questioning the value of CSMs. And this is something that I've been very vocal on about, is that I think that the industry is devaluing CS, not on purpose. I think customer-led growth is huge. I think product-led growth makes a lot of sense. What the Catalysts and the Pendos are doing with these terms. But I think like the heart of everything is we've really taken our eye off the fact that if we're not proving that the things that we're doing every single day equal bottom line revenue, either retention or growth, and we're not responsible for that dollar, then you will forget, and leadership will forget, that you are important to retain that dollar. And we've seen it the last 2 years where CS teams are getting slaughtered, and then NRR and GRR goes down substantially. And I think Mark from Catalyst talked about this, where it's like post-sales life is a different animal, and revenue folks can't act the same way as they do in pre-sales. But they absolutely need the intelligence of moving stages, of driving the ball forward. And it's not just we go from pushing revenue through the sales process to pulling customers after close to renewal. And it's like we've got to flip that coin around, where we are constantly driving and pushing people to outcomes and revenues, and then DQing folks that don't fit and just moving forward. Like it's got to be that. And we're just kind of sitting there holding the plates, and we don't know how to spin them.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. And I think
I will say, I want to take a different side of this, because listen,
let the CCO speak.
I don't. No. Listen, I didn't love my time under CRO. That was not my favorite time in my career. But I had a CRO who knew nothing about post sales, and he understood revenue, let me do my job, and leaned in strategically to help me just drive the revenue the way I recommended we approach it. right? So he helped me with my sales skill development so that I can execute, I can have the right business acumen, I can manage the numbers effectively. But he knew that he didn't know how to run the motions, right? Just like I wouldn't know if you put me in a sales seat, like could I go sell client success? Sure. But would I follow their strategy to a T? No. I'd probably go running havoc, right? I'd do it the way that I want to, the way I think I should. Well, we both sides of that process have a process, right? And so I do think there are some CROs out there, and maybe it depends on the stage of the company or the leader, that know that they don't know anything about this and will empower the right person to go do the right work. So I do think that will happen in some situations. But like I said, I've also seen, Tanya, what you're describing, right? Which is like, you know nothing about what's going to happen. You're going to go force this commercial motion. And that is why I left another company. Was I did report to our president, who ran all of revenue. And in that organization, they wanted me to just be a salesperson. I was like, well, we are morally and philosophically misaligned here. So I'm going to go, but good luck with that. And peace be with you. And I left because I'm like, that's not how you go and do this, right? I can tell you for a fact that's not going to work, but I don't want to be a part of that burning down the house. John, to your point, though, I think what's happening is that GRR, NRR, all those things are lagging indicators, right? So because we are so far removed, and if you're in an organization where you're selling multi-year deals, it's so hard, right? Like because you don't have a direct correlation to any short sight of revenue. If you've got deals that are 3, 4, 5 years long, and you're a CSM today, and you're like, well, no, I promise the work I'm doing in 5 years from now,
CSM will
we're
never
gonna
see
feel
that
it. Right. So I think that organizations, like, it's difficult, right? When there's this need for immediacy, especially in this economy right now, where it's like everything is just hurting, that people need to see and feel an impact. And when you're telling people to wait, right? The work that we do, we know if I start working on an account right now that's at risk, it'll be 6 months before I maybe see the fruits of that labor. Maybe. Yeah. And it might not even manifest in revenue growth. It might manifest in like a logo staying. Right. But even with downsell and contraction. So it's like there's a whole bunch of things you have to consider and outweigh. But I think it's the organization's understanding of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. Well, one thing that this is the question, and it's going to, like I said, it's going to take a minute. I'll get there, I promise. But what I've seen with CSMs is that we are in the spotlight. We are the main characters of our own stories, right? And we are celebrating and telling the customer success stories in meetings, and we are the individual contributor who's like championing, right? And I think I'm still processing this a little bit, so some grace when I walk through this and the question. Most CSMs don't go through more than 1 or 2 renewal cycles with their book before they get promoted, before they get into leadership, before they leave their company. I actually think that we have shot ourselves in the foot because we have not built sustainability into our motions. And I know that's one of Christy's favorite words, sustainable revenue. But this is something that I'm trying to unpack, where how do we ensure the success of the company and the customer separated from the individual that is assigned to it as a CSM? And what does that handoff and pick up and drop and all of that stuff that happens when people move on or people leave or they change segments or they change regions and you have a new salesperson? I mean, it happens so often. There actually is no stability. Let me back that up. We demand stability and revenue from our customers, but very rarely in the enterprise do we as a company provide stability for our customers. That's what I'm seeing unpack.
Which could almost be an argument against what you and I were saying earlier, which is, right? Almost saying that, like, hey,
2 things can be
if
true.
You're not even going to be around in 2 years, if humans are attached to relationships, and there's loyalty in relationships, right? But we're not sticking around long enough to even see it, then should we just be base sales?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. I think, but I do think that there's proven revenue retention when relationships are in place. What I don't think that we've really nailed is we always talk about the handoff from sales. We always bitch about sales leaders doing things that we don't like, but very rarely do these podcasts talk about intra handoff between CS teams or segments, depending on how our leadership is segmenting our customers. We're going through a bunch of stuff. And I know you went through an acquisition, you went through a merger, you went through all of these things, and you went through chaos, right? So one of the things that we talked about in our prep, let me pull up my notes, is that you had chaos in your hands, right? But you had to make an impact. you were the leader and you had these big teams. How do you view making an impact when you're an individual person kind of steering a pretty big ship that is also on fire and maybe sinking at the same time in one aspect or another, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's
Or
about
do you have an
unifying.
example of like maybe the first time you realized that you had the ability to make these impacts?
Yeah, so I think as soon as the merger happened, right, I got the leaders of both sides together for an offsite. Like you have to start integrating the teams right away, learning about what each company offers, what the products are from each of the different companies, how they complement each other, right? Help instill the vision of why, in this case, we brought two companies together, right? And what we thought the future success is, and to kind of get buy-in, and then talk about what's the chaos for the employees? How are they feeling? Are they feeling unstable? Like, how do we now as a leadership team take the next, 6, 9, 12 months and figure out how to make them feel stable, comfortable, but knowing never, at least never in my history, and I've been through many mergers and acquisitions, there's always synergies, right, that are created, and there's technology that's cut, there's headcount that is lost. That just happens, right? It's par for the course with it. So how do you do all that without making sure to promise to somebody that they're going to have a job? Because you can't really fundamentally do that, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just, how do you organize the chaos? And for me, it was getting my group of leaders together, and we got to figure that out, and we got to steer the ship in the right direction the best we can.
Tanya, can you tell us a little bit about post-merger? I know there's a story behind how you were steering the ship for your onboarding experience. That
Yeah.
in particular was fragmented. Tell us a little bit about what you did to bring the group and the experience together.
Yeah, I have a common thread, and I always say siloed functions create a fragmented experience. I'm sure you all would agree.
Oh, I'm
Chris,
writing
you would
that
probably
down.
completely agree, right? And
Love
it
that.
still amazes me to this day how many functions don't talk to each other. And like how many products go live without even someone from customer success's eyes on it to say, hey, from a customer's view, they're going to hate this. Let me tell you why, right? And so there's still so much work to be done there, but I'm a big believer of journey mapping. And so we locked ourselves in a room. We did a journey map of what the current process was, and the amount of pain points and friction points and handoffs was ridiculous. And so then we recreated it, and we got rid of a good portion of that. And at the time, it was taking our customers, we had a backlog, hundreds, I'm going to say. At that time, they were on average launching within 75 to 100 days, and we got most of them to launch in under 30 days. And the customers that couldn't launch in under 30 days was by customer choice, right? Either they were a large customer and they had, 90 providers, or, they just were an enterprise customer, or they just had very specific things that they wanted done a little bit unique and different. But in general, for the bulk, we've got them. So my motto there, Josh, is always start with a customer journey. Every company I join, I do an enterprise customer journey framework, and then I start doing the functional one. And you can quickly see and tell where the break points are and the friction points that we're causing, not only on our employees, but on our customers. Right. And so I feel like anybody, if I could, if there was any, and I don't know, Christy, what you think about this, but if there's anything I would ever share to people, it's do a journey map. Look at how you're currently doing it and the friction points. You'd be amazed at what you could find.
What were some of the things that you changed?
A perfect example would be this, the biggest aha moment. So we were building websites, right, for providers, and it was to drive practice growth. It was like a digital marketing extension. Well, the CSM was collecting the requirements from the customer versus the web designer. Who would be best to gather those requirements?
Probably not the guy who doesn't speak the language of the web designer.
Right. And then, so what was happening is the CSM is filling this out, and they're sending it to the website designer, and they're going back and forth, and the CSM's not playing telephone, calling what a horrible customer experience, right? So finally we had to say, no, you're going to have a kickoff call, and on that kickoff call, you're going to have 5 people present. One of them is going to be a web designer. We're going to gather your web requirements, and that's your time to ask questions. And so it's just simple stuff like that we that you're like, why would the web designer not be on the call with the customer to start with? And then, of course, you have web designers who are very much like, well, no, I'm back office. I don't talk to customers. Well, now that's a different company culture problem, right? So now it's like, well, we're in the business for customers, and so anyways, I won't go too far into details on that. You asked me that in like 3 months. We can have different podcasts on that.
All right, I want to.
Are you inviting yourself back to our podcast?
Part 2.
There's just certain things I just can't.
That's
say
presumptuous.
Yeah. All right, one.
Oh, Josh, you have a really, really fantastic way of making people feel special.
Yeah,
I have a way. I know. I have a way.
You do have a way. We'll just leave it at that. You have a way.
All right, so
we love you, Tanya.
Josh's way.
You're closing down this role and you're looking at your new role, which is super exciting. I'm thrilled for you.
Which is completely different. Like I might be.
Is it a small company? Tanya, can I ask? Because I'm looking at your. Okay, so my thing for you is as I'm looking at your career trajectory, which is super impressive, by the way. Like honestly, I'd love to just shadow you for a day and just understand what you navigated, because it's so different than my own experience, right? Like I've done, smaller scaled companies from as small as where I am now at Client Success, like 100 million, but like only up to like 400 people in a company, right? In customer success. So watching your journey, so different. I was going to ask you, did you, like, if you had a choice now, would you pivot to go try something new and go to a smaller organization where you're building out something at a different scale? So is that what you're going to do without telling us the company?
I'm being very specific. So the 2 companies that I'm currently, and I should hopefully figure it out by the end of this week or next week, are smaller scale, are looking to make an exit, which is what I want. And then I would say I'll probably, Christy, in one company would be under 30 people and the other one would be under 50. So for me, I'm actually really excited because in either, I will be able to build it from scratch and kind of be more that builder versus coming in, inheriting and having to transform, which is more of, if you saw my background is larger companies already at scale doing transformation, and now I get to build and I want to do exits.
I love that.
So that's specifically what I'm going after.
Well, I think we need to revisit this in like a year, because I want to hear your perspective on like how this journey compares to the previous one you on. It is the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And I know that this work won't be easier. It'll just be different. Yeah. But I'm getting a vibe from you that tells me that you'll really love this work. Like you probably like the work that you're doing now, but I think that you might actually really love this work. There is something about building that is really special and unique. I never worked for a company as small as I am right now, and it's so different, and every day is a beautiful nightmare. But it's special work, right? Because you get to build it, and it's your thing. It's your creation based off of your experience and knowledge. Your own. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm excited.
I think Christy wants to be friends. I think you guys should have
all of our guests because I'm nice to them, Josh.
Okay,
you can be friends with our guests, Tanya, too.
And then we'll let you go if I were nice. Chaos that is this podcast. I'm just going to talk over them because I want to ask this question. Yes, if you could give advice to your entry-level self, if you could go back in time and say, oh my God, you need to know this, what would you say?
Ooh. It's not about you.
Ooh.
So I think entry-level people make a mistake by thinking it's actually about them. And I, like 9 times out of 10, when I'm coaching people or mentoring people, the ones who don't make it about them and they're more the servant and they're about others and genuinely care about other people's success, they reap the rewards of the karma and the success. It comes to them naturally, right? And so don't make it about you. Just come in to, like Christy's point about being a hard worker. I listened to your podcast, by the way, Christy, earlier, the one that you guys just did on Friday. But like,
our speed dating.
3 things. Huh?
It went fast. It went fast. I had 30 minutes, so Josh just like bulldozed the conversation.
You covered a lot, and I had no idea that you were a baby model, but I love that. And I think I saw the posting, and I thought it was adorable.
It's going around LinkedIn today, just so you know.
Yeah, it is.
It's going viral.
All over. It's like on viral. It's on viral. That's a new word. It's going viral.
Mission accomplished.
But yeah, don't make it about you. So 2 things. To Christy's point on hers, hard work gets you noticed, but that's not what gets you promoted. What gets you promoted is making it genuinely about others in my heart and having an advocacy above you, like an advocate above you.
That's so good. That's a great great way to end. Thank you so much, Tanya. Josh, do you have any kind of final thoughts?
No, I wanted to, because we were talking earlier off the recording, and you had said that you need an advocate also to support you through your professional growth. So I want to give you the opportunity maybe to recognize anybody who's been in your corner throughout your journey.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've got so many. But I would tell you a couple names that would come to heart would be Kristen Simmons. She was my CMO at Experian. She was amazing, still is. She has just changed my life in a paradigm shift completely. There's also Janet Clardy, who was a HRS VP at one point when I didn't understand why I wasn't getting a VP title. Like, I was frustrated. I was doing the work. I was showing up. Like, I just don't understand why I'm not getting promoted. Like, my numbers are good. Like, the results are there. And she did a great job of It Ain't About You, and a really good wake up call for me to like how I was looking at things. Those would probably be the two most pivotal, but I have so many mentors like along the way, but those would probably be the two that were character changing for me.
Love it. Well, Tanya, thank you so much. Your growth has been an inspiration to so many, and I really can't wait to hear about your next part of your adventure, the next chapter. I would love to invite you onto this episode again, to the show again, and all the data. Yes. Yes, you're welcome
And
back.
all the data. No, I was going to say, no, I'd be honored, especially since Christy invited me back officially.
Yeah, see, we don't even want your pity invite, Josh, because me and Tanya have a spin-off show that we've already coordinated behind the scenes right now, and it's called Sassy Ladies, and we're going to go do some fun stuff.
You didn't just come up with that on the fly, did you?
I actually have a podcast that I'm working on, hence my text to you earlier today. So
I didn't read it.
Didn't I ask for very specific females in roles?
Oh, I thought you were just trying to hire.
That's what that was. That
No.
actually,
So
I have
Tanya,
some ideas
look,
now.
I'm looking for a female sales leader, a female marketing leader, and a female product leader. VP or above, good personalities, smart and opinionated. If you know anybody or anybody who's listening to this episode and can drop me a couple, I'm working on a project that I'd love to partner with some fantastic women doing some cool stuff.
All right,
Christy, this is a good time to remind you that you have a non-compete with this podcast.
It's not going to be like this at all. This will obviously be where my heart is.
That's so funny. Josh, at any time you can put on a wig and dress up and partake, okay? It's okay.
Thank you.
No, I don't need a bossy CEO barking at me all day. We're all good. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Thank you, guys.